Hey everybody, it's Ruby here today, and I thought that I would do a May wrap-up video as well as maybe a June to be read, and just kind of mention a couple of books there. A couple of these books I was planning to do more of an elaborate book review on, or I have already done a book review on them. So just let me know if there's any sort of video that you'd like to see in regards to that. Otherwise I will just keep to my general plans. So I will just go ahead here. So the first book that I finished was The Subtle Knife by Philip Pullman. I mentioned the Golden Compass in the children's literature video that I did, and this is the second out of the 3 books of that series. And so it's just a continuation of Lyra's adventures. She meets Will, and they sort of discover more about this, what they have to do and where they have to go. It is definitely more of like a continuation of the first book, and probably more of a bridge between like the first book and the third book. So it was interesting, but definitely didn't draw me in nearly as much. So I'm looking forward to reading the Amber Spyglass once I have read a couple of other books as well. So I'd probably give this like, I think, a 3 out of 5. A good book to read, definitely, if you like Philip Pullman, but maybe not a starter book or a good introduction to him. And then I have here The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. This is a book that I was meaning to read for the past like 5 years, I think. It is a staple in a lot of high school English classes, definitely in English classes that I've been in, and probably in Canada. And it's Margaret Atwood basically wanted to create a book that showed what would happen if sort of more conservative religious people came to power in America, and how that would restrict sort of the reproduction and general sort of hierarchy of women. So something happens where a lot of women are infertile, so handmaids are asked to come in and basically have children for them with their husbands, and that's the story of this handmaid here. And so it sort of talks about what happened before and what was going on, and then sort of the transition now. It's definitely an interesting book. It was one of my, it's in my area of interest of both like reproduction in science fiction and also more of like soft science fiction and stuff. A dystopian sort of universe, but it's an incredibly depressing book because, especially if you're like a woman, it's sort of like, at least for me, it was sort of like my worst fear come true. So as a friend told me, read a happy book with it, or read this fast, because you do not want to dwell on some of the topics on this. So it got a lot of its message across. It was very impactful, but very hard to read as well. And then I have At Swim to Birds by Flann O'Brien. This is a book that I did a book review on. As a small synopsis, it's basically a book about characters who write about characters who write about characters, and how those characters sort of revolt and sort of write characters out of their plot. It's metafiction. It's influenced a couple of other people like Thomas Pynchon, and I would definitely recommend it for anybody who likes writing or very surreal books, and it's been rated like a top 100 books of all time or something. So definitely a classic for a lot of people. This other book is a book that I hesitate to talk about just because it's more of like a brochure almost than an actual like novel, and it's not necessarily a genre that I generally read or even maybe have that much confidence in, or that much like, yeah, I don't really like them that much, I guess. But I picked this one up because I bought some other things from Kiki K, and it's Eat That Frog, Get More Out of the Important Things Done Today by Brian Tracy. He also has a blog which is actually discusses some of the things that are in some of the chapters of this book, so I'll link that down below as well for anybody interested. It's basically about how to stop procrastinating nearly as much. So I think there's a quote that says, if you eat a live frog first thing in the morning, everything else will seem like perfectly fine, like nothing could be nearly as bad as eating that frog. So this this guy basically says, do your most difficult task first thing in the morning so that you can stop procrastinating on it throughout the day and doing sort of unnecessary things. And usually the thing that you're avoiding is the thing that's most important, or the thing that's due the earliest. So it's definitely something that you should sort of look out for. And it was interesting to read because a lot of the stuff that he talked about, like making lists and making plans and things like that, are things that I had already done. So, I mean, it was sort of like almost like confirmed a lot of the stuff that I had learned in university about how to like be more efficient and study a little bit better. I'm hopefully going to do more of an organizational video closer to the start of the school year that talks about how I plan and organize for the school year, just because I know some people struggle with it, and it's been probably the biggest achievement for university and why I've gotten better grades in a lot of things. And so I'll discuss it a little bit more in the future. This book is also a book that I probably wouldn't have mentioned otherwise, just because it's a textbook, and that is Media, Culture, and Society: An Introduction by Paul Hodgkinson. This is a textbook for my media culture class that I discussed for the YouTube and media culture video that I did. And the reason that I mention this is because I think some people have recommended him for other sort of introductory textbooks. He's very thorough. He mentions, I think, the UK, America, and Canada. So he's not like very centric on one sort of country, mostly because I think he's British. And it sort of goes through like 4 different areas of the media. So media technologies, users, content, and industry, I think. So it's definitely sort of opened my eyes to a lot of things. And it has introductory ideas in theory as well, so Foucault and a couple people like that. So if you're interested in this, you can always pick up a textbook and stuff instead of just having to pay for an entire class. I mean, like, reading a textbook is probably not as easy as taking a class, because in a class you can sort of be directed as to what to read and sort of ways of thinking about what you're reading. But I mean, if you're just interested in the topic, this is always a good textbook to pick up. As for and I finished that this month as well. As for books that I am reading, one of them I can't display because I got it on NetGalley, which is a site where you can request advanced readers' copies of things and read them on ebooks. And one of that is On the Graphic Novel by Santiago Garcia. And it was recently translated into English. And that is a book about like the history of graphic novels and comics, and sort of what the idea of the graphic novel is, and how it's different than comics, or how it's the same but sort of a different name. So there's I wanted to do a review of that with this other book that I'm going to mention, which is why I haven't really mentioned reading it yet, and why I'm still sort of getting through it. But it's definitely, yeah, something I will discuss a little bit later. The other one is going to be Meta Mouse by Art Spiegelman. This is, I did a review on his graphic novel Mouse, which was like a really significant book for graphic novels, where it was about the Holocaust and sort of a greater story than like superheroes and stuff like that. He wasn't the first person to sort of discuss more significant elements, but he was probably someone who was put into the public eye more readily. And so this is, I believe, like a discussion about Mouse, but the reason I wanted to review this with On the Graphic Novel is because I also went to his talk, and I'm pretty sure that some of it is going to be mentioned in this, is that it's going to be about the Holocaust, and it's also going to be about, I think, the development of the graphic novel as well, and sort of discussions with that, because he had a lot of different areas that he drew from when he created this as well. So we'll see what happens. So that is everything. I hope you guys got an inside look as to the books that I've been reading. Pretty impressive, considering that in April I was doing finals, and in May I started other spring classes, or at least I'm impressed with myself. So that is everything for you guys. Comment down below if there's any books that you are interested in or would like to see reviews of. otherwise, I will talk to you guys later.